Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of season 10 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to the podcast. Continue to follow along the YouTube channel. Hit that red subscribe button on Instagram at the Social Work Rants podcast. That is all one word. On Twitter X at Social Work Rants, at Facebook, aka Meta. Type in the Social Work Rants podcast. Hit that like button on the podcast page. My guest at this time is one of my co-authors of Latinx Latin Social Work Volume 2. If you didn't get that award-winning book, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice. A little biased because I'm in the book too. um, Giancarlo Osadio, how you doing, my friend?
Hola, hola, Brasilia, ¿cómo estás? Good, good. How are you?
Good, man. How are things going?
Things are going very cold in New York.
Yeah,
You
yeah, it's
know,
cold.
and I'm not talking about just the weather, trust me.
Yeah, that's yeah, there's not much difference here where I live in Delaware too. It's a lot happening
It's a
here.
lot happening. That's a good word. Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So before we get into the topic at hand, I know I mentioned to pretty much almost a year ago, face to face, but also want to on the podcast give you your flowers because being a having a private practice for mental health in Jackson Heights, and also you got in Astoria, you got in Forest Hills as well.
Correct. Yes, we have 3 locations now. Yes.
Yes, so the expansion of your business, providing private practice in the community where it's so needed in Queens, in New York, is appreciative. I know Jackson Heights, very well on a personal end, and also working in Jackson Heights and working throughout Queens. So I know there's a lot happening in terms of mental health in the last 20 years, pretty much since I started working in social work. So you are doing the Lord's work, and you should be and appreciative of your work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. Also because it's I opened Minds Together at the center of the clinic in 2019. You're right. So very scary because one, I'm a Latino. Two, Latinos, we do not talk about mental health. We don't go to therapy, and yet open a clinic for mental health. Like, no, like it doesn't add up, right? But now, in 2025, I'm gonna say that I have 3 locations: Forest Hills, Jackson Heights, Astoria. We also have in 5 different states because I'm licensed to practice therapy in Texas, Virginia, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Florida. And we
Mm.
have in Florida and Texas, we have our telehealth minds together. So we're expanding telehealth wise. And right now, listen, we have served over like almost 3,000 clients, and the majority are Spanish speaking. And I have over 32 therapists. And I think Minds Together is not just about providing therapy because yes, we are a private sector, but we make a difference because we take Medicaid. We take Medicaid and Medicare insurance, and most private practice, they just do private insurance or out of pocket. But I wanted to help my Latino community, so I couldn't just do out of pocket and private pay. So I was like, you know what, let's open it for Medicaid, and it has been a tremendous assistance to the community.
Which is real needed. And the New Yorker in me, as a native New Yorker, I appreciate the, we call it the gangster way that you open a clinic literally in the blocks away from a well-known agency, nonprofit that does mental health therapy that I used to work for. That agency,
Really? Oh my
yes.
God, okay, okay.
So I appreciate that. That's when we first connected. I was like, "You open a clinic right,
Right
right,
there.
right there." It's like, wow,
Yes,
I respect you right, right off the bat when I'm meeting you.
right in front of it. When I was opening, I was like, oh my God, this is that clinic. What am I doing? But now I think it's not only just providing services, it's the quality. of the therapy. And people who come to the clinic of Minds Together, the idea is to eliminate the stigma that mental health is like, one, on a basement, because right, therapists are always in a basement. Two, there's boring white wall and brown couch, right?
Mm,
So we are Minds Together. No, we decor every room a bit different. So the idea is for the client to go and feel being heard, not that he's going to like a therapy place, right? Because it's the stigma. I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be this.
mm.
People to know me. It's more it's more like that. And we're doing good, we're still there 6 years and we're still right next to them.
So we this is a long time coming, just having you on the podcast. First of all, but we really got together was a post I made. See, this is why you need to follow the podcast Instagram page. So
Mhm.
just I posted about social workers, and I posted it a few times about social workers who voted for you
Donald
know
Trump, it's okay to
yeah.
say.
I do like Whoopi Goldberg on the View. I don't like saying his name on the podcast, but
Okay.
I acknowledge he is the president. So the president voted people who voted for the president, um, who are social workers, and there was a lot of, for the most part, good back and forth conversation. I would before getting any further, I would love for us as a nation and society to go back to agreeing to disagree and
Right.
keep it pushing.
Right,
Uh,
right, absolutely. We
however, the president is doing a lot of things that go against our code of ethics. And you mentioned, you taking Medicaid and Medicare, uh, and the House has already voted to get rid of the Medicaid. Obviously, it has to go to the other branch,
right.
uh,
To the
for
other
the
power.
Congress to pass,
Mhm.
to pass, which probably will pass, and the president just signs it. So there's a lot of things that he did the first term, and we already seen Medicaid and food stamp cuts the first time around. He's president now. Everything that's in Project 2025, he's doing already. So it's my question is like, if you're a social worker, why vote for him?
Okay, no, straight up like that. Well, let me answer this. Before I became a social worker, I'm a Latino, right?
Mm,
I was, I was not born here. I came when I was 17, so I've been living here 30 years. But also, I'm part of the LGBT community, right? So as a gay Latino social worker, people tend to assume that by default you have to be Democrat and you have to vote for Kamala, right? How dare you not be a Democrat if you meet all those criteria? Well, I always been someone who was always against the norm and against what things are supposed to be. The reason why I voted, and a lot of social workers that I know voted for the president, is because we have the privilege to live in a free country where we vote, where my vote counts, independently of who's running. This is not a dictatorship. This is not a monopoly. This is not a tyranny. We have the freedom to vote for a president, and I just did that. I did my right to vote who I thought fit, who needed who met my standards, right? So as a Latino, I said to myself, yes, I'm a Latino, I'm a social worker, but I'm also a U.S. citizen. I mean, I've been living here 30 years and I have a business. So my heart could be Democrat, but my mind and my business is totally Republican, right? And it's a very conflict because I find to be very, look, I've been here 30 years and I only been I only felt being discriminated two times since I've been in this country. Living here 30 years as a Latino immigrant who came and I did undocumented, I was undocumented for 6 years. I did day labor. I worked in every place you could possibly think until, I went for my school. But I felt discrimination twice in my whole life. The first time was when COVID hit. and you were supposed to be mandated to get a vaccine, and I didn't want to do it because for me, I was like, wow, COVID came, and in less than a year, they already have a vaccine. Meanwhile, you have HIV for more than 30 years, and there's no vaccine. I was like, it just didn't add for me, right? So I felt very discriminated because now it's like, oh, you're not vaccinated, you can't come into this restaurant. Oh, you're not vaccinated, you cannot fly. So I felt secluded, right? I was
Mm,
like, oh my God, I'm outcast. I need to get a vaccine then to belong, right? To the norm. And the other time that I felt also discriminated, not because I was Latino or because I was gay, but because I voted Republican, and I openly say yes, I'm Republican. How dare you be Republican if you're Latino and you're a social worker? I'm like, what does that mean? Like by default, it's like, why do you vote for him? And I would say what I voted for him, and I would get a lot of pushbacks. Like a lot of my family members stopped talking to me, a lot of my friends stopped talking to me, and a lot of people just cannot imagine that I am a social worker, Latino, minority, gay, like all checks, click.
mhm, mhm,
But you didn't just do that. You didn't vote for Democrat. Like, how dare you? And I'm like, well, why not? This is a free country, right? Now, why did I vote for him? I was like, listen, we have to agree that the past administration did a horrible job about immigration. It was just out of control. Okay. The other part was the violence, the crimes in New York City was really it was really out of control. A lot of Latinos were against the Latinos, right? And you
mhm,
started seeing a lot of this huge division of old school Latinos who migrated 20, 30 years ago and haven't been able to become residents or have been able to legalize their status. But then you have Latinos coming 6 months ago and already having a work permit and a social security, right? And as a Latino, as a therapist, I would have with a lot of my clients because I also do the immigration reports, and they will tell me, Carlos, how is this fair? I've been living here 20 years, my TIN number, I'm paying my taxes, I don't do crimes, I stay out of problem, and I'm still waiting for my residency. Meanwhile, this family of four that just came 3 months ago already have the work permit, right? So it became
mhm,
very one way, right? And then the other thing is, let's face it, as part of the LGBT community, doesn't mean that I also have to agree with with the entire woke movement and this gender ideology or this approval of kids being allowed to mutilate their bodies at 9 years old. Yes, I am gay, but I don't agree with that either. So those were the same principles that Donald Trump was saying. I do believe in male and female. I believe in two genders. But if you say that out loud, people tend to, antagonize you. Or you're a bigot, you're a homophobic, you're a transphobic.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
no, I'm not because I'm gay. So if anything, I'm allowed to say that. You, as a straight guy, are not allowed to say that, but I could. But it became like you cannot say those things. So it became where we started living in this society where speaking out the truth, speaking out of how you felt was condoned, was being castrated, was being like rejected by the other groups, right? This group of movement who talks about inclusion. Yes, if you're talking about inclusion, then you're not allowing for to make a difference. You're not allowing for people to think otherwise. So we're not in a free country. Like, what is this? Oh no, you have to be included, we have to be inclusive. I'm like, yes, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything you say. Now, I'll give you this example.
mhm,
We are therapists, right? I have mom brings her little girl. The little girl is 9 years old, and I say to the mom, what's going on? Why are you bringing your daughter? She's 9. Oh, Dr. Osorio, I'm having this problem at school. I'm so afraid that they're gonna remove, the custody of my daughter. I don't know what to do. Like, what happened? What's going on? Meanwhile, I'm thinking, is there a physical abuse? Was the kid abused? Right?
right,
Major safety issues. Mom says, no, the thing is that my daughter, 2 or 3 weeks now, self-identifies as a cat, and she wants me to name her as a cat, and she doesn't want to eat. She just wants to drink milk on the floor, and I refuse that. Like, she's crazy. And then I said, so then what happened? Well, then my daughter went to the school and told the teacher that I'm not affirming her gender identity. And I was called and I was told, if I don't affirm my your daughter's gender identity, we're gonna remove it because that's abuse. You're not allowing your daughter to freely express who she is at 9 years old, right? So when I talked to this little girl, she's like, "Yeah, my name is," and she was meowing and meowing, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what are we seeing here? Is this an epidemic? What's going on?" It's getting
mm,
out of control, right? So for this little girl to say to me, my name is not Andrea, let's say, I want you to name me as Kitty Kitty, and I want to sleep on the floor and my mom doesn't let me, and I want to use the litter box and my mom doesn't let me, she's mean. Like, what do you do with that? Do I, as a therapist, say, yes, you are a cat and I'm going to help you affirm your identity? Or do I have to explore if there's underlying mental health issues, personality issues, right? So when
right.
I talk a little bit more with this little girl, what do I find? That in the house, they have three cats, and mom loves the cats and treats better the cats than the little girl, according to the client. So she
Mm,
says, oh, if I'm a cat, I will get my mom's attention as well. Case off, right? But you have a client, a 32-year-old client, 5'6", and she weighs 80 pounds. She says to you, I perceive myself as obese. I am so fat. I need to do liposuction. Meanwhile, you're looking at her and you clearly see, and as a therapist, that she has an eating disorder. What is your role? To say to her, yes, you're absolutely right. I have to affirm you. You're fat. I'm gonna sign that letter so you could get a liposuction, or I'm going to challenge your perception of who you are physically. What are you, right? But that was not allowed anymore, right? Because now being a woman, it's you know what, Basilia. From now on, I'm not John Carlos. I want you to call me Mary, right? And then the next 10 months, I'm actually not Mary. My pronouns are they. No, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm a penguin to spirit. And if you don't abide by that, then I have to sue you. And you're gonna go and I'm gonna sue you and I'm gonna do a hate crime. Where does it end? Right? Where does it end?
I, I understand where you come from, and again, that's another thing too for me that I need to continue, education on just the gender affirmation, the pronouns and stuff like that. I'm a heterosexual, male, and like that. I talk to my kids, uh, about that. I already experienced that. At least my daughter experienced that, having a trans, classmate or in camp, and like didn't really understand the pronouns. So I had to like provide that education on those pronouns, and still didn't quite like get it, but I still had to provide that,
No,
the
no.
education of that. So
But
I get it.
but with the pronouns, there is no look. We live in society, right? And we have to obey by society. And you imagine a world where everybody has the right to self-identify as they want, and everyone is right. So this is chaos. It's crazy, right? People talk about like, oh, there's not a lot of jobs opportunities for people with who identify with several pronouns. And I'll be honest with you, and I've seen it with my other workers. I'm like, George and Carlos, look, this look at this amazing therapist. I need a therapist. And I read, oh, like, wow, are you gonna hire him? No, man. Look at the pronouns, and we look, he, they, him, sir, she, they, blah blah, like 10 pronouns. And then I go to him, why don't you hire him? Dude, you know the problem he's gonna cause me if I hire him? First, I have to train my entire staff to adapt. And then the two is, if God forbid we mispronounce his pronouns, he's gonna sue us. No, I don't want that. And that became that movement of wokeness and of theology. They tried so hard to be so inclusive that that just became a mockery and became a clown of the entire LGBT community, right? Where a trans woman who has transitioned, who has done her surgeries, who has gone through all of this process to be happy with who she is, right? After so many surgeries and procedures, for a man to just say, I'm a woman and I have the same rights as a trans. No, I don't allow that. I don't accept that. Now, do I agree and do I respect if Basilio, you tell me that you identify as a giraffe? Sure, go ahead. You want to identify as a giraffe? Sure, but do not obligate me to buy into your delusion and to name you as a giraffe. Oh, you are trans and you want to have top surgery and you want to have female feminization surgery, sure, do it, but do not do it out of my tax money, right? Do not do it out of my government money, because When I want to have a bleach, when I want to get my teeth bleached, I don't get approved by that because the insurance says that's cosmetic, right? So it doesn't work. And I think what happened is people look, Basilio, the president won not only the 313 delegate votes, but he won the popular vote. This hasn't
Mm-hmm.
happened like in 21 years. That should tell you something. And for me, what it told me was the people was tired of the immigration. People were tired of the violence and crime. People were definitely tired of woke and pronouns and theology. And I believe that most people voted because it's more important for them to have money on the table and feed their families than having to memorize the 135 different pronouns. And I think that's what made the difference, right? And obviously abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Latinos, most Latinos are Catholic Christians. They're anti-abortion. That is not going to happen. So when Kamala started saying abortion, abortion, I'm like, you lost the Latinos because Latinos are not going to vote because they're Christians, they're Catholic, they're families, and they're against abortion. But all Latinos that I spoke with in Jackson Heights, when I did my podcast in Orlando Carlos, I would ask them and they would say, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I'm Latino, but I'm voting for Trump because this is getting out of hand. People dying on the subways, and it's always Latinos being robbed. And you look, it's Latinos, the Venezuelan gang. Like, when? Like, I've been living here in 30 years, and I've never seen New York City like that. So that
Do,
should tell you
do,
something.
do you think, well, that aspect right there, do you think that that's more of a city and state issue? I mean, I have my issues with, De Blasio, the former mayor, and Adams is even worse. And
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't stand Cuomo and Queen Kathy. I call is
Mhm.
doing a horrible job. Like, so, like the two best things I seen was like between both sets of mayors and governors was make marijuana legal and pre-K. That's
Okay.
ever that's it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're part of the reasons, among many reasons, why I left New York. So like,
No, no.
you
Now,
think, it's more of a city? My point is, do you think it's more of a city issue that's so many crime happening compared to blaming the Biden
I,
administration compared to
I
like
think
Adams?
this happens more in blue states. Look at California. Look at the homelessness. Look at the drug, the fentanyl, right? It's not the same in Florida or in Texas. And you have to ask yourself, why? Is it the policies? Is it the Democrats are more lenient, are more soft? Or is it the Republicans are tougher? Because this is the same issue in California, right? California is it's even worse, right? Because I think it's even larger than New York State, but you don't get the same issues in Florida, you know, and 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 like I said, and going back to the Latinos, you know,
Mm-hmm.
here in New York City, here in Queens, you started seeing this great, huge division of Latinos, the old Latinos that were here 20, 30 years ago, working, doing what they needed to do, staying out of trouble. And then the Latinos that came 2 years ago, now having, living in hotels for free, giving like $1,000 of food stamps because they didn't like the food that we're eating. Like, really? And then people are like, yo, and I cannot even apply for unemployment because I don't get approved. So even if with my clinics, if I lose my clinic, I will apply for services. I would even get it. I've been here 30 years, right? So people started saying this is not right, this is not fair. And then when you have a system that protects a certain category of people, you're gonna have flashback and you're gonna get people are gonna get angry. And like I said, a lot of Latinos voted for Trump in terms of we're tired of the immigration. Now, everything that he's doing so far, he's been like a month and a half. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not surprised because that's exactly what he said during the campaign. He's not like our typical politicians in our countries that when they're doing their campaign, they promise and they promise, and then they
Mm-hmm.
get into power, they don't do anything, right? Well,
Right.
this is the contrary. Trump is doing exactly what he wanted it to do, what he said he was going to do. Now, he will sign 500. executive orders. Sure. Would all of them pass? No. Why? Because we live in a democratic country. There's powers, there's division of powers, right? You
Mm,
go to Congress, you have to go to here, and then the ultimate, the Supreme Court. So Trump could say whatever he say, and he could sign whatever he could sign. Would all of them apply? No. Would some of them would? Yes, because that's the whole power, right? You have to
right.
give in to lose some. So the whole thing that he signed the executive order of losing the citizenship, right, of kids being born here, that went out the window but the court. So, like, I don't take that personal. I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be. Yes, you are the president, but you also need to be in check, right? You, as the president, have to be in check, and you have
Mm.
these powers, and you have the Supreme Court, and that's the beauty of living in a
And there's already part of the amendment in our constitution. He couldn't do that
exactly.
anyway.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people tell me, "Oh, Giancarlo, that you're not you as a gay guy, you're not afraid that he's going to put an executive order and eliminate equal marriage." And I'm like, no, because the equal marriage is not about being gay. It's a human right. We have the right to love and to get married whoever we want, despite if I'm gay or trans. Like I don't see that, right? And I think a lot of my position with many people that I talk to is that even though that I'm gay, even though I'm Latino, I don't hide on that LGBT umbrella, and I don't hide and say, "Oh my God, I'm a victim, poor me because I'm gay." Like I never use that, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, being 30 years and being an LCSW and having my master's, my whatever I have, I could tell you, Basito, that not one LGBT agency helped me in any way throughout my 30 years because I
Mm,
refuse to play the victim card, and I refuse to say I don't get hired because I'm gay. I don't get hired because they hate gay people. No, because when I got hired at my first job in the hospital, Giancarlo Osorio was the one who got hired. They didn't hire me because I was gay. In fact, they didn't even have to know that I was gay because it's irrelevant, right?
mm,
So when I see people saying hire me because I'm gay, like no, they're not gonna hire you because you're gay. And that's what Trump also eliminated, right? That other executive order where he said you're going to get hired for your merits, and I agree with that because I think it's unfair that if you're straight, you're not gonna get hired because oh you're just a straight boring cis man. No, you're boring. Let's hire the trans guy. That will give us more federal money, right? No, if they hire me or if I hire a therapist at my clinic, I'm going to hire the therapist because he has the experience, he has the credential, he has the educational, he has what he needs to do, and I know he's going to provide what I need to him to provide for, right? The quality of services. That he's gay, okay. It could be black, it could be an Asian guy, it could be an Indian guy. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as he has the merits and the qualifications that I need him for. I'm all down. So when they talked about President Trump eliminated the equality that is going to be discriminating, I'm like, no, like, so are you going to play the victim role? Hire me because I'm trans, or hire me because you know what? I finished my master's. There's a big difference. And I don't
right.
think I don't think that's wrong. I don't think also that's wrong where trans women are not allowed in women's sport. I don't think that's right because it's not fair because they already have a biological advantage, and it's not fair because then that means that men are taking over women's spaces that have fought many years, right, to be where they're at. For a man to say, now I'm a woman and I'm going to box and I'm going to win all the boxes, and then women are supposed to be like, yeah, you can't say anything because then you're gonna be transphobic.
But with that, there's not that many trans female athletes, period, to make such a big deal about that.
It becomes a big deal about it because if you allow it once, you have to allow it to all of them.
Because even
Right.
like in the NCAA, there might
Right.
be only like 15
But
trans athletes tops in all the thousands of colleges in
but
America.
let me give you this example. Let's say you have your daughters and your daughters are in the swimming team, and your daughters are applying for the Olympics, right? They're the Olympics trial. So one of your daughters is competing with a trans woman, and the trans woman beats your daughter, and the trans woman takes the Olympic spot instead of your daughter. And your daughter says, that's not fair. He's a man. Why is she competing with me? And you have to say to her, what? Do you think that's fair? Because they're not starting at the same baseline, right? Because it's not fair. So if you're allowing trans women to compete in women's sport, then why have women's sport at all? Then just remove it, and then don't have men's sports, don't have women's sports, just have sports. Would that be fair? One, would that be fair? And two, would that be safe space for everybody? Think about it. So if we're going to allow trans women to compete with women, then why have two categories of sports? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense when a non-binary person or a free gender person says, my gender fluctuate however I want, and but then does top surgery to become more masculine. It doesn't make sense. What it makes sense, clearly you have an underlying mental illness undiagnosed. And it's most of the time. What is so scary about this is that we are minimizing mental illness, we're minimizing the mental illness in the youth, and we're giving more priority to what we feel, because what we feel is more important than our safety. Oh, what is wrong with people doing whatever they want? Oh, you know what? It turns me on raping people. So that means that because I love raping people, I'm going to go and do it. And would that be okay? Because this is what I want to do? No. Look, when I was a kid, I remember I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God she didn't believe me. Thank God she didn't took an eye out or amputate one of my legs, right? But now, if you have kids saying, I'm a dog, then you have here the mothers buy them dog food, going out the street, and what it's insane. It's insane. So it has to stop. It has to stop, because then as a therapist, if I say to her, you're not a cat, then she's going to sue me because I'm doing conversion therapy now.
I
Right?
I want to go back to the Latinos for Trump and your conversations that you had. So did you break down based on like, because obviously I'm Puerto Rican, so obviously within our cultures are different. We have different you know different things, between food, sayings. Sometimes we have the same word and means different things. Just a variety of different things. So like, when the election happened and they blaming us for Kamala's loss, I'm like, hold up, espérate, like not like I know Puerto Ricans who voted for. I got family members who voted for Trump, which it blows my mind, especially the rally that happened in Madison Square Garden and
Okay.
Puerto Rico piece of trash, and just the whole Hurricane Maria, the
Right.
debacle that happened. So for me, like,
And he still won. So what does that tell you? Two things. It
mm,
tells you the Democratic Party did a horrible job nominating Kamala Harris. Or Biden should have stepped down months before that. Or two, people were tired of the way the country was headed. It has to be those two, because there's no other. I don't find any other explanation. Why would someone vote for Trump with everything you said, and he still won, right? He still beat Hillary Clinton, and he still beat Kamala. So then you have to say, did Kamala did a horrible, horrible campaign of the Democrats, lost it with her, that Trump won, or were the people from the United States of this country had enough of everything that was going on and wanted a change? The Trump won. Which one do you think?
me, Biden's messaging up to the point he they told him to to
Yeah,
hit the road
yeah.
was horrible.
And you know,
I give you a perfect example of his horrible messaging. 2 years ago, I went to the national social work conference on HIV and AIDS. There was a person in his administration from HUD giving all his accomplishments that he was doing for the H, uh, HIV and AIDS community. And that was the first time I've ever heard any of those accomplishments. And I brought it up to that person. Why are the American people don't know of all these accomplishments that he is doing. And I had her on the podcast to explain that as well. His messaging was beyond horrible. I think she did a good job with the best that she could with the couple months
Yeah, the
that
couple
she
months.
had. and,
But,
and
but look, but what does that tell you? I remember when Biden they told him to step down, and he served more his ego, his narcissistic, and said no, instead of saying, if this is the best way for the American people, yes, let me step down, because that's what a good leader is about. In my book, it's a good leader. A good leader says, listen, you're not doing the good job. You have to step down, let others. Okay, you're absolutely right. But if I'm gonna put in my ego and my narcissistic personality, and I'm the best, then here's the results. And I think Kamala, yeah, you're right. She did what she could, but it was a loss. It was already a loss. And look at her now, right? And so the November passed, and where is she? You don't hear from her, right? And then people wonder, wow, so what was it really honest what she said during her campaign? Because now where is she? She's not stepping down, she's not stepping out to contradict Trump or to fight Trump. They're doing just very passive, right? And people ask, where are they? Like, where's the Democratic Party at this point? Where's Kamala saying, I'm against this, or any other Democrat stepping up the plate and trying to stop Trump, right? So that it makes you wonder: did the Democrats or Kamala just abandon all its people and be like, "It's a wrap, I lost, bye, don't talk to me ever again"? Because that's the same thing that happened to Hillary when she lost, right? Now
uh,
we have this president.
I mean, Kamala did make an appearance in recently the NAACP awards and did a speech. She's been making appearances. Just I mean, but then again, part of the issue too of her, I think, kind of goes back to what you're saying about Biden's ego was his his first like year and a half in office. Like you never saw her,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 100%.
so like to like all of a sudden like having her be the nominee, that's fine, but like people, and I know people who are like, but where were you like the first like year and a half of the term? Like you were, so the
100%.
Democrats messed themselves up more
No, no,
than
no.
anything else.
100%. And so you add that, then you add the uncontrollable immigration, then you add the uncontrollable index of violence and crimes committed by the same people that came in, and then you also have this people saying, "My God, I've been living here 30 years, and I have once applied for food stamps, and now these people that came in are living in a five-star hotels in New York City. They're giving $1,500, $2,000 food cards that they don't use for food because most of them go in and cash it out for cash because we know how that goes. And then they're saying, how is this fair, right? How is this fair when they get a letter from immigration saying your case been on hold because we're attending, urgent matters with the recent flux of immigration, and they've been here 20, 30 years, right? So then people start questioning something is not right,
Ha-
something's not right. And then
ha-
on top of that, because it doesn't stop, right? Because I remember it's all of this movement. Then on top of all of this, you add the woke movement, right? Then you add the pronouns movement, and then you add the ideology movement, and then you add the worst thing that they could have done when they started targeting the kids, going to the kids' classroom and teaching them the kids at 6 year old about sex, and drag queens reading to books in school, and then telling the kids, yes, if you want to be trans, that's okay. You could start the surgery. And I think that's where most of the people said, enough, we got to stop this. I think when all these movements started going for the kids, I think that's when they said enough. And don't forget about the abortion. So it was all of this, right? It's all of this.
and and I, and I think a lot of people also, which leads back to the poor messaging that Biden was doing, was you know Trump cut Trump cut the food stamps in 2018, which affected so many people in our community. He separated families and locked kids in cages. The list goes on and on and on. And
Yeah,
the 34 convictions,
yeah.
the
And he still won.
molestation of the women, and
And he
he's still
still won.
one.
And he still won. So what does that tell you? Either the Democrats did a horrible job or society in the United States was fed up.
Uh, and to me, I blame Trump's first term for for the inflation that we still dealing with
And
at this time. But like it goes back to he still won.
he still won. But also, let's not forget that Obama was the president and still is the president who deported more immigrants in history. Deported more than 5 million immigrants. People tend to forget that. People are, oh, Trump is deporting. Yeah, he's only been deporting 500,000 immigrants. How many did Obama did? Oh, we don't talk about that because it was nice. People have a little selective memory.
Yeah, it goes. The selective memory goes both ways.
you know, eh,
I definitely give give you that.
you know, Trump, Obama, when he stepped out, didn't he remove the pies descalzos for the Cubans? People forget that, right? People forget that, right? People forget that Obama, when he, right, I think 3 weeks before he stepped down, he said Cubans no longer pies descalzos. Now they're also undocumented as anybody else. People forget he did that, right? But then in Florida, Trump wins, right? So New York, even though it's a Democrat, but is leaning more red and red every time, you know, and that tells you something. And I think what it tells you
I think,
here in Queens or
but
here in New York City, that people voted. I don't think people voted this time for political parties, to be honest. I don't think people voted Democrat or Republic. I think people voted like, I need to put more food on my family. I need to have kids go to school and don't teach them about sex. I need no abortions. I think people voted for the principles, for the ideas. I don't think people voted Republican or Democrat. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I feel.
yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah, no, no. Obviously, the inflation kicked everybody's behind.
Yeah,
The gas prices were beyond
yeah,
crazy. It's the housing. The United States of America is
yeah.
unaffordable. It doesn't matter where you live at. It's
No, 100%. And it shouldn't be like that, right? It shouldn't be that here in Jackson Heights, you started seeing kids selling candies and sending lollipops instead of going to school. That's child abuse, but that's accepted. But if a mom hits a kid, then here you have the child administration remove that. It doesn't add up, right? When a mom has her 9-year-old on the subway selling candies where this kid is supposed to go to school, but you can't do that because they're, oh, pobres undocumentados, and I get upset at that because you're allowing this abuse to these kids out of pity, and that's not right. That's not right, because if you're gonna say it's child abuse for me and it's child abuse for everybody. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I am not gonna drive drunk on a car, right? Why not? Because I know I'll have consequences. I could do it and say, "Oh, I'm Latino and I'm gay. Don't do anything to me." No, it's the law. So why do I have to obey the law? Meanwhile, you have other people abusing it. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right when a lot of people, go to the charities to collect, when they do like this clothing events, and a lot of Catholic charities or a lot of agencies will give like free clothes, right? And then you have all of these massive people coming and getting them. And then those same clothes, a week later, you see them that they're selling them on the streets on Roosevelt Avenue. Are you kidding me?
now I want to talk about um, your business. You mentioned at the very beginning about Medicaid and Medicare and serving your community. It, if that gets cut, what happens to the patients you serve? What happens with your business?
Well, really think it's not gonna happen. This country's not set up like Canada. Like they're also planning universal insurance. It's not gonna happen. We're talking about 380 million people here. It's not gonna happen. And if it does happen, and then I have to look at what other options. But to honestly, I don't think it's gonna happen. I
Why
do
not?
because I don't think it would pass Congress. I don't think Supreme Court. I don't think would allow it. I really don't think the Supreme Court would allow it. That's I know they're also talking about universal insurance, like universal for all. That's also not gonna happen because we live in a free country where we have free how do you call that?
Free enterprise with all the insurance companies. The insurance companies will not allow it. They will
Yeah,
go out of they will go out of business. I
yeah,
get that.
they're not gonna do it. What I do think and what I do hope for, especially for New York City, and I've spoken to Jessica Ramos. You know what I do wish? I do wish that there's free mental health care services for everybody. I know deeply hearted that all of this it's underlying a huge mental health crisis in our youth, in our kids. Social media, this idea of your feelings are more valued than your morals, that your feelings are more valued than the lives of others. It's scary because it's allowing people to do whatever they want to do, and it's okay, and it's not okay. You know what I mean? Because I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, if I'm transgender, I could get away with this, and if I'm gay, I could get away with this, right? Or if I get HIV, then I could get a free house, a free apartment." And they're forgetting that these are permanent issues that are affecting. I hope, yes, free mental health insurance. And I also think it's cheaper to do preventive. It's always cheaper to do preventive work than to have someone in crisis at the psych ER and they have to be stable for a week. That's more expensive. Or what are we going to wait for someone to go manic and throw someone at the train, or them start shooting and then,
But
oh my God, let's do something, right? Why
but
do,
it's the
huh?
is the American way. The American way doesn't believe in preventive. They wait till
No.
something happens first. Look,
Yes, it's
look,
always that. We always need a tragedy.
mm,
We always need some deep. Could you curse? I don't know. Could you curse here? No.
go ahead.
Uh, we always need this deep shit to happen to
Mm.
then start planning. Oh yeah, perhaps we could start doing this. I work like I would love for Jessica, to because I know she's the one.
Who is that for people who don't know?
Jessica Ramos, she's the New York State Senate from New York State, and she's running for mayor here in the city. So she will be the first, not only woman but Latina, to be a New York City mayor. And I
Do,
interviewed her a couple of weeks ago in my podcast, and one of her many points is to advocate for me for free Medicare. I'm able to work with kids because they have the insurance, but I'm not able to work with the parents because the parents unfortunately don't have insurance. And half the work is with the parent,
right, parents exactly.
with the parent. It's with the parent. And it's so hard when you have to work with the kid and the parents is waiting outside, and then they go back to the house, and it's all square one because the service just goes one way. And two, it does stigmatize the kid because then the kid thinks that he is the problem, and that's why
Mm.
he's in therapy.
No, I used to do therapy with kids, so I know there's a lot of parenting skills that involve in a
Yeah.
lot of cultural issues, first gen American
But
versus
right,
immigrant families and all
right, or
that.
right, or when the parents have their personal translator, which is the 9-year-old.
Mhm. Yes.
Right? But you do see the difference and the progress when parents are involved in therapy with the kid, when parents are
Mm.
doing the work, you see the improvement as the family as a whole. But unfortunately, like I said, I've done some pro bono because I do pro bono work. Some of my Spanish speaking therapists, they have to do pro bono work. At least 20% of their caseload is pro bono because that's part of giving. But we also run a business. So, I can't do everything for free because I'm not I'm a private sector. I'm not a non-for-profit, so I don't get funds. I don't get grants. I don't get none of that. It's just all plain word of mouth referrals.
Gotcha. On that note, how can people reach out to you?
Sure. My website is www.mindstogetherpc.net, and you can find us in all our social medias, mindstogetherpc.net. Phone number 347-730-4249. And we're here in New York. But like I said, I do have a license in other states where we also do telehealth. And a part of that, I personally do immigration reports for political asylums, pardons, waivers, VAWAs, humanitarian visas, you name it.
Awesome, good stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a part two
Yeah,
as this administration
we
goes
could
on,
have
and
you know what would be great, but a lot of people are afraid of doing it. You could have a debate like someone who's a social worker supporter, right?
mhm.
Democrat, and then we go at it. And but I try to do that, and a lot of people are like, nah, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm like, again, I think it comes to speaking the truth. You get condoned for saying something like, no, I'm not okay with that. Oh, but you're gay. Yes, I am gay, but I am not okay with this. Like, no, it's not right. Oh, then what type of gay are you? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like different country,
Yeah,
right?
I get that. It's
Yeah.
on that note.
On that note.